too caught up in their blossoming romance. What promotion? Mr. Bradford looked genuinely surprised, then quickly recovered. She didn't tell you? Jack asked, sensing a trap. No. Oh, well. It's not important now. She's going to turn it down, Mr. Bradford said with a smug smile. Too bad, though. She's been working so hard for it these past 2 years. Jack felt a cold dread spread through him. Then why is she going to turn it down? Well, it would mean moving to Houston, and that could cause problems between us. Mr. Bradford's eyes held a subtle triumph, a calculated gleam. Well, why didn't she say anything? Jack asked, his voice barely a whisper. The realization hit him like a physical blow. I guess she didn't want to make you feel guilty. You must have more in the ball than I thought to make her give up something that she wanted so badly. Mr. Bradford's words were a poisoned arrow, designed to strike at Jack's conscience, to sow seeds of doubt. Just then, Vicky emerged from the bedroom, transformed. She wore a simple, elegant dress that accentuated her natural beauty, her hair falling softly around her shoulders. She looked radiant, but her eyes held a flicker of apprehension as she took in the scene. Hi, Dad, she greeted him, her voice carefully neutral. Darling, how are you? Mr. Bradford's tone shifted, becoming saccharine sweet, a stark contrast to his earlier venom. I'm just fine. Has Jack been entertaining you? Vicky asked, her gaze darting to Jack, a silent question in her eyes. No, Mr. Bradford replied flatly. Excuse me, why didn't you? Why didn't you mention anything to me about that job offer in Houston? His voice was sharp, cutting through the thin veneer of civility. Vicky's shoulders slumped almost because it wasn't important. I'm going to turn it down. Well, shouldn't you at least consider it? Jack interjected, his voice tight with suppressed anger. He felt a profound sense of betrayal, not from Vicky, but from her father, who had so expertly manipulated the situation. I already did, Vicky said, her gaze fixed on her father, a silent battle playing out between them. And, Jack pressed. And I'm going to turn it down, she repeated, her voice firm, but tinged with a weariness that Jack recognized. Oh, well, are you sure, though, you're doing the right thing? Jack asked, his heart aching. He knew how much she had worked for this, how much it meant to her career. Vicky turned to him, her eyes filled with a complicated mix of love and frustration. Well, Jack, do you want me to take the job? Well, no, I mean, you should do what's right for you, he stammered, caught between his desire for her to stay and his deep-seated belief in her independence. But Jack, if I move to Houston, we'll never see each other. Her voice was soft, vulnerable. We'd still have weekends and holidays. Jack offered, a weak defense against the inevitable. Weekends and holidays, Vicky scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. You know, we really don't see that much of each other as it is. You're flying around all the time. I work all hours. Jack, Vicky started, her voice breaking. Vicky, the importance. What I'm trying to say is, I want you to do what's best for you. He reached for her hand, his touch a silent plea. I will. Vicky pulled her hand away, her expression hardening. Dad, could you give me a lift home? Now, Mr. Bradford looked surprised, but a flicker of satisfaction crossed his face. Wait a minute. I thought we were going to do something, Jack protested, his heart sinking. I'm sorry. I just didn't realize how tired I was. Vicky's voice was flat, devoid of emotion. Well, we could do something, shall we? Jack insisted, desperate to salvage the evening. Vicky, thank you for a very pleasant evening. Jack, she said, her words formal, a wall erected between them. Vicky, hey, listen, I'll call you tomorrow, okay? Jack called after her as she moved towards the door with her father. Okay, but if I'm not home, I'll call you, she replied, not looking back. The door closed, leaving Jack in a stunned silence, the air suddenly heavy with unspoken words and shattered expectations. He stood there, reeling, when Janet burst back into the living room, her face alight with excitement. Terry, Jack. Oh, excuse me. She stopped, noticing the somber atmosphere. Hi, Vicky, Janet said, then looked at Jack, her smile fading. We're going to get where, I hope I'm not interrupting anything. No, Janet, it's okay. I was just leaving, Jack said, his voice hollow, Good night. He walked past her, a ghost in his own apartment, the joy of the wedding preparation now, a bitter irony. Janet watched him go, then turned to Terry, who had just entered the room. Jack, what happened? Nothing, Terry replied, her eyes filled with concern as she watched Jack disappear into his bedroom. Well, it's so early. Where's Vicky going? Janet pressed. Terry sighed, a knowing sadness in her eyes. To Houston. The apartment was a whirlwind of activity, a frantic ballet of moving furniture and misplaced decorations. The grand wedding Jack had envisioned for Janet had devolved into a chaotic, last-minute scramble. The organ, a behemoth of an instrument, was being wrestled through the doorway by Jack and Larry, a friend of the group. That's good. Let me see. A little higher. Jack, Terry directed, her hands on her hips, a picture of exasperated efficiency. Jack, grunting under the weight, his mind still replaying Vicky's departure, looked up blankly. Jack, I'm sorry, I was someplace else. Terry rolled her eyes. When you come back, could you lift it a little higher? Sure, Vicky, Jack mumbled, his mind still on her. Terry threw her hands up. Terry, don't push. Oh, hurry it up. This thing is heavy. The organ. Where do you want us to put it? This thing is heavy, Larry complained, wiping sweat from his brow. Any place for now. Okay. Will you put it down? Jack said, desperate for a reprieve. Larry complied, dropping his end with a thud. Will you pick it up? You said put it down. But not on my foot, Jack yelped, hopping on one leg. Pick it up. Mr. Furley, their perpetually flustered landlord, bustled in, his hands wringing. Mr. Furley, Larry, would you just put it over there? Please. Okay. Come on. Now. He clapped his hands. Now, Larry, I want you to run out and pick up the flowers, paper napkins, and plates. Larry groaned. Cinderella, all I hear is Cinderella. Well, I understand Janet's parents can't come out to the wedding, Mr. Furley said, his voice laced with a hint of scandalized gossip. Yeah, Janet and Phil are gonna fly back and see them afterwards, Terry confirmed, rolling her eyes at Mr. Furley's. Well, who's gonna give the bride away? Mr. Furley asked, wringing his hands again. I am, Jack declared, momentarily forgetting his heartbreak, a flicker of his usual bravado returning. You? Then who's gonna be the flower girl? Mr. Furley looked aghast. No, I was just kidding, Jack quickly clarified. Wait a minute. Mr. Furley paused, a grave expression on his face. If Janet's mother isn't gonna be here, who's gonna talk to Janet about whatever a young bride should know? He looked at Jack and Terry, his eyes wide with concern. Mr. Furley, I wouldn't worry about it, Terry said, trying to wave him off. Where is Janet? In her bedroom, Jack replied, his gaze drifting to the closed door. Mr. Furley squared his shoulders, a look of grim determination on his face. Excuse me. He marched towards Janet's room, knocking politely. Come in, Janet's voice, muffled by the door, invited him in. Oh, hi, Mr. Furley, Janet greeted him, surprised to see him. Hello, Janet. Janet, I think it's time that you and I had a little talk. Mr. Furley's voice was low, conspiratorial. Okay, what about? Janet asked, her brow furrowed in confusion. Well, about men and women, what goes on between them when they're married. Come on, no questions. I'm going to cover everything. Now, Janet, we are living in the 80s. So I think we can be perfectly frank. To begin with, men have certain needs. He paused, looking at her. Janet, ever practical, replied. So do women. Mr. Furley's eyes widened. Of course they do. Mr. Furley, women are every bit as warm and passionate as men, Janet explained, a hint of exasperation in her voice. They are, yes. Then why do they always act like they're doing me a favor? Mr. Furley muttered, a lifetime of romantic misadventures flashing before his eyes. Meanwhile, in the living room, Jack was still wrestling with his emotions. The image of Vicky walking away burned into his mind. Terry, ever observant, watched him with a mixture of pity and frustration. Jack, do you think we need something else over the door? She asked, trying to distract him. Did you say something? He asked, lost in thought. I said, why don't you just call Vicky and get it over with? Terry replied, her patience wearing thin. Why doesn't she call me? Jack retorted, a childish petulance in his voice.